It all begins. Our protagonist Daichi, a high school student desperate for summer break, but instantly, his excitement is crushed when his teacher hands him his failing grades. The teacher gently asks if his struggle is because of his father's tragic death, but Daichi heartlessly lies, claiming he's just lazy and playing games, while in secret, he actually spends every waking moment obsessively researching the internet for the truth, things that teachers and adults would surely dismiss as meaningless distractions. And after a few hours pass, he heads to a video game arcade where he runs into Kaito, who casually invites him over to his house, so Daichi goes along and is surprised to see two classmates already there, most notably Anna, and after some time they begin playing together while Kaito mentions his plan to go to a summer house and asks if she would like to come. But just then the girls tease Anna about her tutor, and Kaito unexpectedly admits that he is not Daichi's real father because his actual father died some time ago and was an astronaut, and almost immediately Anna switches the TV channel to a news report about an astronaut. Yet the moment Daichi sees the strange phenomenon unfolding in the sky on the screen, he freezes, because it triggers a childhood memory of witnessing something eerily similar, and without explaining much he stands up, thanks Kaito for the invitation, but says he doesn't think he can go, then leaves. And as he walks away, his thoughts drag him back to a day long ago when he wandered near a space facility and saw a child standing on the other side of the gate, staring at him oddly and asking about the object hanging on his chest, and Daichi explained it was a gift from his father, only for the confused boy to ask what a father even was, a question that left him shaken and overwhelmed by emotions he never learned how to process. While elsewhere in the city inside a tall building, two boys say goodbye to a pair of investigators, and once they are alone, their excitement spills out as they say the harvest season has finally begun and that they have already found the person capable of activating the machine, meaning they can now fulfill their destiny like planetary gears falling into place. And at the same time, in another investigation room, two TPI members lie weakly on stretchers as supervisors conclude that the strange singularity in the sky was caused by that very boy, confirming that he is indeed an avatar. And the next day, Daichi travels by boat, lost in memories, because curiosity pushed him to walk past Teepe before and promise him his necklace if Teepe could do something surprising, which the boy accepted by jumping from a dangerously high place without taking any damage at all. But then Daichi surprised him in return by throwing a boomerang, and from that moment a friendship was born, one that lasted for hours as they talked, climbed to a high point, and watched the sunset together, where Teepe showed him his power by forming a rainbow from his palm, leaving Daichi stunned and now pulled back to the present as he arrives at the island's port. He feels an unexpected sense of home and goes straight to his father's grave, where Tsutomu admits he had been waiting because Toshiaki said Daichi would come here and hoped he would return home soon. Yet the question still lingers of whether his father truly died in an accident, sending Daichi's mind back to the day it happened when an object was heading toward Earth and Tao, his father, activated the rocket without hesitation, knowing that as captain his only duty was to protect the planet, believing his sacrifice would be worth it. And Tsutomu confesses that while she regretted the pain of that decision, his father was the greatest captain that ever lived. And a few minutes later, Daichi returns to the facility, remembering that 3 months before the accident was the last time he saw Teepe, when Teepe promised to show him something incredible, and after unlocking a door, they walked through unfamiliar corridors until Daichi entered a room and stood frozen before a small girl sleeping inside a massive sphere, and Teepe admitted she had never woken up. But when Daichi touched the sphere, a blinding light filled the room for seconds, and in that instant the girl opened her eyes, looked straight at him, and asked if it was him, leaving the boys confused as they helped her out and gave her clothes. Yet the moment they stepped outside, they found a group of people already waiting for them, and that was the last time everything felt even remotely normal. He was the last person who saw them, and because of that, our protagonist now returns once again to the facility, feeling uneasy when, without any explanation, the door's lock suddenly opens on its own, so he slowly walks through the corridors, yet ends up getting lost. And then a strange sound echoes nearby and startles him, but in the next moment he sees a girl appear, calmly playing a flute, and with a quiet gesture she signals for him to follow her, and at the same time, far away in a base belonging to Pasil, the Amara are preparing their companion Moko, who is finally ready for her mission, and seconds later she is launched forward using the power of the base, immediately entering her combat form, feeling genuine joy because it has been so long since she last wore her armor and could move freely through space, so she begins heading straight toward Earth, while organizations and satellites quickly detect her presence, triggering defense systems that label her as a threat and order every available protocol to open fire. And meanwhile, our protagonist follows the mysterious girl into a strange elevator, and when they reach a very dark place, he asks why she brought him there, but instead of answering, she points toward the sky where he sees a hologram of Moko in full armor advancing toward Earth, and this deeply worries him because he knows a catastrophe is approaching if she is not stopped, yet he has no idea what he himself can do. And out in space, Moko effortlessly stops every missile launched at her, while back in the darkness, the girl points toward a weapon that suddenly appears in our protagonist's hand, and in the blink of an eye, he finds himself somewhere completely different, standing beside a gigantic suit of armor armor as a man asks him whether he is a captain and if he understands the value of the weapon he holds, leaving him confused. But then he remembers what Titsutomu once told him about his father, and he admits that all he truly knows is that he must stop the danger heading toward the planet. And as he says this, the weapon in his hand begins to glow with intense light, and at that same time the space station erupts in shock because the expansion protocol has activated automatically, something no one expected, not even Titsutomu, who cannot understand what is happening as the Pegasus rocket is launching from Earth when he believed Teepe was still in the infirmary. And our protagonist places the weapon into the core of the power system and focuses deeply, knowing he must guide the rocket toward the expansion station, so he does his best to control it, letting the power inside him lead the way, freeing himself from the capsules and advancing in his armor until he reaches the first station where the expansion protocol begins. And after passing through 3 more stations flawlessly, he obtains the armor with its power at maximum, astonishing everyone on the space station. And even several generals begin questioning how someone could possibly master the Libelaster weapon, since that kind of power could disrupt the balance between factions. And from his post, Titsutomu watches in disbelief as Teepe arrives, becoming even more confused because he still does not know who is controlling that space armor. And moments later, Moko draws closer to Earth and finally confronts our protagonist, immediately opening fire with excitement and overwhelming him with her attacks, while Titsutomu tries to contact the pilot and is stunned when he hears our protagonist's voice. And even Teepe cannot understand why he is the one piloting the Earth Queen, but it is Peter who speaks to a girl no one recognizes and asks for her help, which she agrees to, informing him that she will take over the communication system, greeting our protagonist, who asks who she is, yet she calmly answers that it does not matter and that he only needs to know she is a magical girl on their side, warning him that he is now on a battlefield and his objective is to defeat the machine attacking them. And she also explains that the armor he is using consumes his life energy through the Lip Blaster, asking whether he has ever piloted one before, which he denies, admitting he is just a high school student, leaving her completely shocked as she realizes the weapon itself chose him. So she says she will take direct control and tells him to hold the weapon firmly so it can draw out his vital energy, allowing him to dodge some of Moko's attacks and land a hit, though Moko proves far more agile and strikes him hard, the full impact crashing into him, while Akari grows frustrated because controlling things from such a distance makes precise decisions difficult. Yet our protagonist grows angry at the thought of dying here, and after remembering his father, he decides to take responsibility himself, concentrating all his life energy into the weapon and charging straight toward his enemy, shocking Moko as she recognizes the energy radiating from his armor, and he chases her down and delivers a blow with all his strength, using that opening to activate one of the weapons and completely destroy her armor, reducing it to a simple cube that returns to the station it came from. And across the space station, everyone erupts in celebration, while Peter apologizes to Titsutomu for acting without permission, explaining that he had no choice because Akari is the only one capable of handling an EA in Guinea, and that he had planned to present her as a candidate to work there anyway. And at that moment, the space general informs them that their fears about the Kilty gang becoming more active were real. So all defensive protocols are now fully engaged, though the most shocking discovery of all is learning where the Lip Blaster was located. And hours later, our protagonist returns to the island using the armor's automatic landing system, where Titsutomu is already waiting and admits he never expected him to obtain the Lip Blaster, and soon after begins running tests to ensure his body suffered no alterations, while the Lip Blaster is taken to storage and placed beside the previous Lip Blaster. And Teepe and Han are interrogated because the girl never informed them there was a second weapon, yet it is clear they are hiding several secrets of their own, leaving Titsutomu with more questions than answers. For his part, Titsutomu explains to our protagonist that his organization publicly presents itself as an institution dedicated to designing space enhancements, but in reality they are responsible for protecting the world from alien invasions. And upon hearing this, our protagonist immediately suspects that his father did not die in a simple accident. Yet when Titsutomu asks how he obtained that weapon, he can only answer honestly that he does not know, because one moment it was not there and the next it was already in his hand. And a few minutes later, as they walk together, Titsutomu notices the investigators interrogating the boys and storms in angrily, furious because he never authorized the use of those special headphones on them, while our protagonist ignores the argument and happily greets Teepe, realizing how long it has been since he last saw him. And he also assumes that Hannah is the girl they found that day, so he proudly shows his boomerang, remembering perfectly how to use it, and he takes Han by the hand to teach her, but suddenly she falls to the ground because Rado activates a switch that sends pain through the headphones, hurting both kids, shocking our protagonist as he sees the pain Han is suffering. And hours later, Han is already resting in her room, caring for her pet while being monitored by Reito, as Titsutomu speaks with his research team because Peter has begun to believe that the Lip Blaster is not only an energy generator but also an extra-dimensional life form capable of choosing people and activating the ERT machine in Guinea. While elsewhere in another building, Cube speaks with his assistant, who cannot understand why they give give those kids so much freedom to train and make decisions? Yet the man simply replies that it is policy, because his superiors decide what must be done with those children, and at the same time, Moko explains everything that happened to Mara, who asks her to let her see, then steps closer and kisses her, obtaining her memories and witnessing the armor that struck her, though she is surprised because that armor uses a lip blaster as a booster, something extremely rare, and she warns her not to create illusions because she is just a computer, then asks about their plans, and Moko calmly replies that all simulations are perfect, and that the global organization will gain enough time for them to save humanity, though Cube coldly reminds her that only the humanity he chooses will be saved. And the next day, our protagonist is summoned into a room where he sees on the screen the same man he saw before boarding the armor, as Peter introduces himself as the chief scientist of the base and assumes he already knows the people standing behind him, which our protagonist confirms when he recognizes Han and Teepe, and Reito immediately questions him about where he planned to take Han the previous day, to which he replies that he was simply trying to keep a promise, remembering the day he met Han and promised to teach her how to fuse a boomerang, but now he asks Reito why they felt pain, and the man responds that Han and Teepe are under the organization's supervision, and that as a security measure they use special headphones that send painful shocks if an escape attempt is detected, which angers our protagonist because they have done nothing wrong. Yet Peter interrupts and explains that they need to talk about the lip blaster he used with the armor, since it is extremely unusual for someone to wield it, especially when they believed only one existed, and even Han, the owner of the first weapon, was never able to use it, leaving Teepe as the one who always fired it. So now they have many experiments to conduct and mysteries to uncover because of his appearance, but our protagonist asks what they did with his weapon, and an irritated Reito snaps that the lip blaster he obtained does not belong to him, and so our protagonist tells Han and Teepe that he will wait for them at the beach. And hours later, as Peter speaks with Tsutomu, they both reflect on the unbelievable coincidence that Daiichi's father was the one who named the ERT machine, and now his son seems destined to pilot it. But suddenly, an alarm warns them that our protagonist's headphones are sending intense distress signals because he has reached the beach and, focusing deeply, causes his weapon to appear in his hand and fires at the tower controlling the headphones, disabling them instantly. And in her room, Han is shocked when the pain stops, so she grabs her pet and knocks Reito aside as he tries to stop her, rushing to reunite with our protagonist, who uses his boomerang in a way that leaves Hannah amazed. And Teepe asks why he returned to the island, to which he replies that he had to fulfill the promise he made to both of them. And the next day, Tsutomu visits him and asks him to follow, noticing from his expression that he did not sleep well because of the handcuffs they placed on him. And when they arrive at the main hall, everyone else is already there as Reito announces that headquarters has authorized new security devices to prevent escapes, but Tsutomu finally loses his patience and ends it all by freeing our protagonist and the others on the spot, shocking Reito, as Tsutomu reminds him that he is the commander of this facility and will not allow the children to be treated that way, something he already reported to headquarters, and Reito storms off angrily when he realizes he cannot win. And moments later, Peter enters with Akari, surprising Tsutomu to see his daughter there as Peter introduces her as their new companion, revealing she was the girl who helped during our protagonist's mission and had a code name, though Tsutomu cannot understand why his daughter was chosen until Peter admits she is a prodigy hacker capable of breaking their security, making her indispensable to the project. And Akari confesses she became a hacker because her father was always busy and her mother, as a space station commander, was rarely home. So in the end, Tsutomu accepts, but only on the condition that his daughter, Teepe, Han, and our protagonist all live in his house, because things will no longer be handled the same way. And after clearing everything up, they go buy supplies together, apologizing to the kids for how unfairly they were treated over the years, promising that with our protagonist's arrival, everything finally makes sense and from now on, things will change. And hours later, our protagonist cooks dinner while Tsutomu tells them they will now live together as a family, though with several rules. And after dinner, Han talks with Akari about her pet pits, whom Akari saw at the temple earlier, leading Han to ask about that place. And Akari explains there is a temple dedicated to an angel that fell to earth, while our protagonist speaks with Teepe under the incredible night sky. And Teepe admits he was shocked to see him use that weapon and, as promised, gives him his necklace, because whenever one surprises the other, they must give it up, while Tsutomu is informed by Peter that the Federation has unanimously decided that our protagonist will pilot the armor again. And that night, Reito speaks with one of his superiors, who admits they did not expect our protagonist to summon his weapon and destroy one of the towers, but stresses the importance of Han Kivotos and orders that she must remain captured and controlled, assigning Reito the mission of eliminating our protagonist before he becomes a greater obstacle. And hours later, Moko prepares everything for Amara to destroy that armor, activating the system and sending her ally toward Earth, appearing suddenly as all systems sound the alarm. And Tsutomu is horrified when he recognizes Amara's armor as the same one that fought Daiichi's father and caused his death, something Reito also knows and secretly welcomes as an advantage, while our protagonist sits in a room trying to write the report they requested exhausted about how he obtained his weapon, only to realize everything was too confusing to explain. And at that moment, Reito enters and tells him he came for something important, revealing that a machine has appeared in the sky and is heading toward them, and that it is the same armor that killed his father 9 years ago. And minutes later, as Titsutomu debates what to do, haunted by the destruction that machine once caused, he is told that our protagonist is preparing to deploy the ship without permission, only for Reito to admit he authorized it because he believes he can overcome this trial, while the space station commander is stunned when the activation process begins automatically as the ERT machine armor approaches. And as our protagonist completes the procedure, the commander questions why they sent him when he is not ready for something of this scale, but Reito smugly replies that they still have missiles if he fails, prompting an enraged Titsutomu to strip Reito of his authority and ban him from all command rooms, though Reito leaves smiling, confident this will be the end of the ERT machine. And minutes later, Han is alerted by her pet and runs out in panic as Titsutomu is informed that multiple satellites are down and they cannot support our protagonist, until Akari asks to handle it herself, activating remote systems through German satellites and astonishing everyone as she hacks them effortlessly, brushing off her father's question about last year's space system hack and instead launching support missiles just as a tremor spreads without anyone realizing it is Han channeling her vital energy toward the machine, while at the same time Amara destroys the incoming missiles with ease, declaring that she will not underestimate them again because she recently lost, and the bitterness of that defeat still sits inside her like a sharp stone. And Titsutomu urgently tells our protagonist to return immediately because he is not ready for this kind of fight, yet our protagonist, breathing hard, asks him if it's true that his father once battled this same machine, and the commander confirms it. And in that moment, something hardens inside our protagonist as he answers that, then he has to stop it because he refuses to let his father's death mean nothing. And with that thought pushing him forward, he begins firing, but Amara doesn't back away at all and instead rushes in, slamming into him again and again with brutal hits, making Akari panic because it looks like they never fully repaired his armor after the previous damage, and Amara is clearly overpowering him with ease. And just when she is about to land a crushing blow, a light suddenly appears between them, growing brighter until it forms an armor that Amara recognizes instantly as Alvon, and she clearly did not expect to see it here. And before anyone can even react, that armor releases a massive sword, and with one decisive thrust, it pierces the head of Amara's machine, then follows with a heavy slash that turns her armor into a cube that shoots back to the station, leaving Titsutomu stunned because he cannot understand where that armor came from. And in the middle of that shock, Han appears inside the command area and tells them clearly that this armor is an ally, and our protagonist stares in disbelief as the machine that saved him creates a beam of light just like the one Teepe showed him long ago. And minutes later, they rush to the capsule where Teepe lies extremely weak, while Peter cannot understand how they made it work because that system was never efficient. But Han admits she simply sang a little, and Titsutomu remains deeply shaken because what they did didn't just change the battle, it saved our protagonist's life. And hours later, Amara wakes up inside her capsule and tells Moko that Alvon appeared and they fought, but it stood against them, and she insists they must investigate immediately because she hates what just happened. And the next day, our protagonist cannot stop worrying about how Han and Teepe are doing, so Akari tries to lift his mood, while Titsutomu at headquarters speaks with several investigators who analyzed Han, trying to detect the origin of the energy she created to activate the machine. And they also hand him the results of psychological tests they ran on Teepe that morning, and after reading them, Titsutomu gives Peter permission to speak with Teepe, so Peter begins questioning him about that armor, explaining it vanished from a laboratory during the Kanda incident at the exact time Teepe also disappeared. But Teepe refuses to claim he knows anything, saying it simply appeared along with him inside that armor, and Peter isn't surprised and ends the call, then tells Titsutomu his theory. Teepe is the subject who was inside the armor that fought long ago and is still drifting somewhere in space, which leaves the psychologist and Titsutomu confused because it sounds impossible. Yet they also have troubling clues since Teepe has always behaved in a strangely unnatural way, so they decide they must investigate far deeper, and Titsutomu orders everyone that none of this can leak outside this facility because it is top-level secret information, both to protect Teepe and because Teepe saved our protagonist's life, and he also prevented the ERT machine armor from being destroyed. And while all of that is being decided, Teepe quietly activates the light disc in his hand and watches as a strange symbol burns itself into his palm like a mark that refuses to fade. And after a while, Moko and Amara arrive at the island searching for information, traveling in a large vehicle, their presence bringing a new kind of pressure, one that feels like it's only beginning. So friend, if you enjoy this anime and want next episode, so don't forget to like and subscribe the channel now.